Welcome. This is Real Life with our very favorite life coach, Susan Harf. You know, Susan gives us tips and strategies for how to live our very best life and also how to navigate those tricky things that get in our way. Like you, I can't wait to hear what's on her mind today. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Rose. I'm so happy to see you, and I'm very happy that you joined us as well. So today we're talking about self-sabotage.
Susan, I'm going to pause right there. Self-sabotage.
Yes.
Okay, I should have a notebook and some things to write down for this one.
Well, here's the thing. I always tell people you don't need to write because you're going to remember what pertains to you, and this pertains to everyone. I'm happy to say that this topic came to us from a viewer. So I'm always pleased when people write in and let us know what they're thinking. And this is a topic that I think applies to almost everyone. One of the things about, and I think I want to define it for people, because one of the things about self-sabotage is, like that word, like others, people sort of use in everyday society, but sometimes they don't know what they're talking about because we tend to describe ourselves in mental health terms that don't always necessarily come to bear. Self-sabotage is a deliberate effort to make it so that you don't end up achieving your goals.
Wait a minute.
However,
say that one more time.
It's a deliberate effort, but it's not necessarily a conscious effort. So there's a difference there.
Okay.
So when I say deliberate, I mean there are specific behaviors that you are doing that is keeping you from reaching your goals or reaching your potential. That's not the same thing as I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to set out to do myself in. Most people don't do that. They don't get up in the morning ready to self-sabotage, but yet they're doing deliberate actions which are causing that.
That makes good sense to me, because you think about different things in our life. You know, you want to lose weight, but yet you stop at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Right? So things like that. You want to stop smoking, but yet you're still, you know, still lighting up. So
Exactly.
Those kinds of things.
So since you brought up those are two biggies. Let's start with the first one, losing weight. Okay. So I can relate to that one because I've had my own journey with weight loss. All right. Many times. And what I found is I had a goal that I thought I had, and I had a goal that I didn't know that I had. And here's the difference. The goal that I spoke about was I want to lose a certain amount of weight. I want to be healthier. I want to live longer, as long as I can. I want to be on the planet with my family and friends. And that's my goal. I want to lose weight. But I had another goal that I didn't know I had. And my other goal was I want to find the most delicious version of everything and eat it. So here's where that came into play. What I mean by that is, Rose, I'm a great cook. You know that.
I know you are.
I love to bake. You know that, as do you. And you're both of those things too. Great cook and great baker. But it goes beyond being a good cook and a great baker. I want to make the best recipe of that. So if somebody were to say to me, well, you can have a brownie, but you could have the brownie with no sugar, no fat, and almost no taste. Or you can have your brownie recipe, which I have a great one. I would say, I want that one. And certainly, if I was going to make it for you, I definitely would not be making the low sugar, no carb, no anything brownie. That was a goal that I had, meaning every time I would sort of, I don't want to say chastigate myself, but every time I would say to myself, eat the lower version, eat the fat-free version, eat the you know, what I would consider the no-taste version, I would do it. I would eat it so that I could lose weight. But eventually, I was going to go back to who I really was, which was the person who knows how to make the great brownie. And I wanted to eat it. So I had two opposing goals. Do we call that self-sabotage? Well, I don't know. I believe that sometimes you may have goals that you don't know you have, and by understanding what the goal is and becoming more aware of what that goal, that unconscious goal is, can help you with your conscious goal. So here's how I made that work for me. I decided I really did have another goal, and it was sabotaging my goal, my stated goal, which was to lose weight. But I also know that because that's who I really am, when I make you dinner, I want to make you the version of the dinner that's going to taste the best. I've decided I can't do that every day because that's going to sabotage my long-term goal of losing the weight. So sometimes we have a short-term goal and a long-term goal. The short-term goal can be, I'm going to eat that right now. But the long-term goal is going to be sabotaged if we do that continuously every day, all day. So I think there are ways, in some cases, to get both goals met. But the first thing you have to do is become aware of how you are self-sabotaging. What are you doing that is creating these acts, these deliberate acts, which are keeping you further from your goal? But then you have to come to terms also with who you really are. Because here's the exciting news.
I'm ready.
We're all going to get what we really want. So if you really want the best version of it, you're going to get it. And you're going to sabotage the other goal to get it if you don't understand that's your secondary goal. So instead, I'm deciding I'm going to really make that great brownie for you when it's time to make it for you, or if I want a special treat. But I'm not going to have it every day because I got a goal. And the goal was I needed to lose 25 pounds, and I did it.
But then would you necessarily eat the cardboard brownies too, or you just save it for the one for that special one of eating the one you like?
Good question. Whatever makes sense for you. Just know that the reason why people lose weight over and over and over again, because in between they gain it back, is because they're going to get what they really want. If you never change what you really want, and that's the hard part, that's why people gain weight back, I think, because they can stick with what they really don't want, but they're willing to do for only so long. So the other fact that becomes apparent is you have to incorporate things into your daily life that are going to allow you to reach that goal that you may not want to do, but you're going to tell yourself, I'm willing to do. So for instance, I have a client right now who wants a different job, and the job involves moving into a different career. And she's scared. She has some anxiety about that. And so one of the things that she has many things that she needs to do. One of the things she needed to do was to make a list, and we did this together, of all of the steps that are going to get her from point A to point B. And what I'm coaching her on right now are toward making those steps. Some of those steps are easy for her. Some of those steps are very, very hard. Sometimes the step can be, I'm going to call up the organization that's going to help me achieve my goal. Or I'm going to call the person that I would like to work for and talk to them about what I might do to prepare myself for that role. Or I'm going to call up someone else who can give me some help about figuring out what I need to do along the way. So sometimes reaching out to people for some individuals can be very anxiety producing. Going to a resource, looking up online the various aspects of the resources you need to even to make those moves, that can be anxiety provoking. We can say, well, I don't know how to do it, or I'm not sure where to go. So what I'm saying is there are many steps toward reaching goals, some small, some big. But you can take them even if you have that anxiety.
And what I'm hearing you say too is that very first step inside of you, that you cement what it is you really, really want. And if you've got persistence and follow through, and that's what you see, and you're keeping your eye on that, then the other intermediary goals may be the right word, but you make along the way in order to keep going towards that ultimate goal. So that even if you want to make more money, or you want to get a new house, or you want to, lose weight, or whatever that goal might be, that if you're focused and intent and passionate about it, that it can happen.
Yes. And so you said the intermediate goals as well. So for instance, stopping at Dunkin' Donuts once in a while is not going to make you lose track of your goal. If you stop there every day, no, that's not going to help you. So that's the conscious part. And also, I really want you to give yourself a break here. I want people to get the notion that perfection in and of itself is a self-sabotage. So to say, let's say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in the next 3 weeks is ridiculous. And that is self-sabotage. If you make the goal itself so ominous and so unattainable, then that sometimes creates a spiral where we say, I'm not doing it anymore. Do you know that most New Year's resolutions are over by February? Truthfully.
Well, yeah, you start really hard and fast, but then you're worn out, and it's so different than your normal life pattern.
Exactly.
No matter what it is you do, that you're like, oh, I cannot do this anymore.
Exactly. I'm going to swim every day. Yeah. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm never going to eat chocolate as long as I live.
Yeah.
All of those kinds of things I've heard people say on New Year's Eve. But the fact is that that's unattainable, it's not realistic, and perfection alone is your enemy. It's not your friend.
You know, perfection is an interesting concept, though, too, because that whole idea of having to be perfect before you act or have everything in place before you act, that can be really hard to deal with, that whole idea of perfectionism.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And perfectionism is absolutely a form of self-sabotage. If we instead make our goals not unrealistic, but doable, number one, and number two, if we make them incremental, and number three, while we're making them incremental, if we think about the moment. I was about to say, if we think about the increment that the next one that we want to achieve, but bringing it even further, drilling down. If we stay in the moment, that is what helps you not only relieve the self-sabotage, but it helps you in a very healthy way move toward the goal. Because in this moment, I don't need that brownie. At this moment, I don't need it.
And beating myself up because I ate it last week doesn't matter either, because last week's already gone and the future hasn't happened.
Rose, you're such a good life strategist. You're so good. Because we can't really forget the past. And we can't say the past doesn't matter, but let's use the past instead as a resource to not do that again.
Yeah.
In other words, I did it only so I could come here and tell you that it's not a good idea, right? So instead, what we need to do is we need to use the past as our resource, as our fuel, and then not make it the present. And if we stay in the present and we say, right now I'm concerned about now. Can I do that right now? Can I work on my goal right now? Yes, I can do that. I'm not going to tell you if I can do it tonight or tomorrow or next month. But if we keep to the present, so in other words, my goal for today is, and then that not only will help us achieve today, but it will also put us further ahead toward allowing us to move toward the goals. Nobody ever achieved a tremendous, huge, ominous goal all at once. And instead, I'm thinking two things at once. We need to instead do it incrementally, but what I'm also thinking is sometimes we say that we're going to tackle that gigantic goal because that in and of itself is self-failure and self-sabotage.
Do you think we should write down our goals as a constant reminder, or put little Post-it notes up to remind us what to do or what we want to convince ourselves of?
That's very helpful for some people. I think what the borderline idea to that is we need to make our goals measurable. So in other words, when you're losing weight, I'm not big on getting on the scale every day or constantly. That does not help you. But to say I want to lose weight is not really a goal, because how are you going to know if you achieved it? Right. To say I want to lose 5 pounds in the next month, that is a goal. So it's the kind of thing where if we make the goal measurable, then when my client came to me and said, I need to be home more with my family, okay? What prevents you from that? I travel for work. Okay, so how often are you away from your family? Well, it varies. If I told you that we're going to work on being home 3 or 4 nights a week for dinner, would that make you happy? Yes. I want to be home 4 nights a week for dinner. Okay, so now I want you to write down every night as we're working toward this, and we're talking about the reasons why you're not home as much as you want, and we're drilling down and we're thinking through and we're planning how you can get better. At the end of the week, when you look at your calendar and you see, was I home 4 nights, that's how you're going to know that you achieved your goal. So writing can definitely be helpful in that way. But in essence, whether you write it down or not, it's got to be measurable.
So what I'm hearing you say too is a little bit of a difference between a wish and a goal.
Exactly.
A wish is just that.
A wish and a prayer.
A wish and a prayer.
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of throwing it out there. Maybe
That's right.
it'll happen, maybe it won't. And
Yeah.
a goal is clearly defined and measurable.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about some of the ways that we do self-sabotage and also why we do it. Because people ask me all the time, why do I do that? So one of the ways that people self-sabotage is they get involved with other activities when they know that they should be doing whatever the goal activity is. So people get on the internet. You can spend hours searching the internet for mindless activity when you know you should be doing your work. People procrastinate. They say, well, I need to get the project done by Monday, but I have other things I want to do this weekend, and I'll get to it Sunday night.
Or the project seems too big.
Exactly.
And that's why you procrastinate.
Exactly. So that's a why. But yes, so procrastinating, surfing the internet. Sometimes people develop self-sabotaging behaviors like drinking, smoking, gambling, having affairs. Those are self-sabotaging behaviors that keep you from working on the initial goal, whether it's the marriage, the family, the job. And one of the reasons why we self-sabotage is because, one of them, this is not everyone, is because in our family of origin, the family that we were in when we were growing up, our parents did that to themselves. They prevented themselves from reaching their goals in one way or another, or they did not promote our healthy self-esteem in the ways that they raised us. So if someone comes from a family where one or two of the parents were constantly telling them in some form or another they were no good, they eventually believe it. And when you believe you're no good, when you believe you can't, fill in the blank, you can't do it, you can't achieve it, you can't learn from it, when you believe that, your actions show that. So the why becomes, this is how I grew up, or the why becomes, this is what I believe about myself. Now the exciting news is you can change that.
Right, because I'm thinking sometimes that why might be an excuse. Well, I don't have to do that because my parents raised me X in such a way.
Exactly.
You know, and so forget about the excuses.
Exactly. And sometimes you can still put one foot in front of the other. Even, you may not believe I can't, but you might believe it's going to be hard for me. You can still put one foot in front of the other when it's hard. Nobody ever said that people who are attempting to reach their goal and making those small steps are sailing through it. It's hard. It's not easy. But here's the thing. The choice to give what you didn't receive is also a choice, and that makes it easier for you next time. So for instance, if you were raised by a mother or a father who didn't support your self-esteem and told you that you weren't good enough, you can turn around and treat your child like they are good enough and tell them they're good enough. And every time you do that, you're telling yourself you're good enough too, because you're breaking that cycle. So number one, you have to believe you're worth it. You also have to believe you can do it. And one of the things that helps you get there is by what we said earlier, breaking it up into very small steps of what you want to achieve. Sometimes what we want to achieve is we want to have a good day. We want to be happy today. We don't want to allow our burdens to bring us down.
But that's a good thing too for the day. Just to say,
Exactly.
you know what, just today, I'm not going to complain, or just today,
Exactly.
I want to feel peace in my heart.
Exactly. And that is something that we have control over then when we make that unconscious conscious. So today I want to feel happy. Doesn't matter that it's raining. I'm bringing my own weather.
I laugh, but you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can bring that into every single situation. Just for now and just for today.
Exactly.
Everything else that's happening is not affecting me right now.
Exactly. So we have to be willing. We have to be willing to change. We have to be willing to decide to make the choice that we are going to make it happen. Sometimes we believe that because we have these nuances, or we have these concerns or fears, or sometimes not knowing how, sometimes we believe that that's going to stop us. And then we instead of trying and putting one foot in front of the other, instead we allow ourselves to succumb to what we believe about ourselves that is not true. Because the fact is that the ultimate decision to be better, to do better, to not self-sabotage, but instead allow ourselves the joy of having what we want, is to take responsibility for that belief system.
That's good. So how do you take responsibility once you finally come to the aha, I realize I need to take responsibility for all this right now? What are some very specific steps that we can start this with?
Number one, take the ominous goal and bring it way, way, way down to very, very small incremental goals. So in my life, when I've been thinking about making a change, I start with things like, I have to make a phone call to someone, and I'm a little fearful because it's kind of like I'm Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, and I don't want to approach that person. And you know what you find out most of the time when you feel like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz? That the wizard is like that wizard. The person sometimes that you're afraid of, the behavior that you're afraid of, the concern that you have about a group, about an action, about that change, it's never truly as ominous as it really seemed. So number one, bring those down to small incremental goals. Number two, give yourself a break. We're not always going to be achieving and succeeding every moment of our life, and we don't have to. We don't need that perfectionism. And number three, be willing to fail, be willing to say, I can do this, and above all, treat somebody the way, if anybody allowed you to believe that your self-esteem was at stake by growing up in a family who did that, you can change that pattern right now, right here, right now, by treating your children and your friends and yourself in a way that was not given to you.
And I love that, because you're almost telling yourself, I give you permission to succeed.
Yes.
I give you permission to achieve your goals no matter what has happened to you in your past, or how you grew up, or no matter where you are right now in this life.
Yes, because, and also fill your life also with people also who have done it. So there are people who, just because you're a smoker, you don't have to remain a smoker your entire life. People have quit smoking. Just because you want to lose weight and you're not having success now, people have lost weight. You can do that too. Just because if you don't like your job, there are many people who don't like their job and took the steps to change it. You can do that too.
And I'm even thinking smaller, like you're overwhelmed because your house is a mess.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, start with one room, start with picking up the clutter.
One space, absolutely.
Interesting. So to make the goals doable.
And measurable.
We start small. We make sure that we don't try to attack it all at one time.
Yep.
And we keep a focus on those things so that we can also celebrate with ourselves when we achieve that. So does that celebration get in the way sometime? You're like, wow, I had a really great day. I can just be on the easy street now for the next couple of weeks. Good job, good job. How do you keep yourself focused?
Very good question, and the short answer is you make sure that celebration is not a self-sabotage. You say, I can have this once, I can do this once, but it's not 2 weeks. It's tomorrow morning, I'm back to the do, back to where I'm going.
And what do you think it does for people when they actually make those goals and they realize they have those little steps along the way that they find success? Does that self-sabotage happen less frequently than it did before?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because you have experienced yourself as a winner instead of somebody who can't. And by the way, when you say you can't, it's really I won't.
Oh, if you say it.
There's no I can't.
Yeah, and then if you're not going to do it, you're obviously, if you think you can't do it, you're not, it's not going to happen anyway.
And once you say I won't, that's the road to taking responsibility. And that's really the key in all of this. You are responsible for making sure that you deserve it, because you absolutely do, and that you get it, because you absolutely do. You deserve it.
Is there any problem that's too big that these strategies wouldn't work?
That's a very good question, and the answer is, as long as you're trying to change yourself, no. It's when you start trying to change others that can be an issue, and I don't advocate that.
Right, and sometimes we can self-sabotage ourselves in our relationships just because of the way we treat others, or the way we treat ourselves in the presence of other people. That could be something that is that unconscious part of it. Because in the beginning you said, okay, so you might do this consciously, and then you might do it unconsciously, right?
Yes.
Susan, these have been great tips. So thank you all so much. I'm Rose Martin with Susan Harf here for Real Life, and we've learned how to not self-sabotage ourselves and how to set goals. Please join us next time for Susan's next topic. See you later.